So the FX3 has grown, and truthfully, I have grown with it. I want to take a moment to reflect on this camera. I want to take some time to talk about some things that I've shot over the last year, my thoughts going forward, and why hopefully one day I will leave this camera behind. What's going on, guys? So it's officially been a year since I switched my client production kit over from the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K over to the Sony Fx3. God, it's a long name. But I feel like this is a perfect time to kind of reflect and look back and talk to you about some of the struggles that I've had with this camera, some of the things that this camera has done excellently, and what I'm probably gonna do in the future, which may not surprise you. So this video is less of a technical overview of this camera, and this is more for somebody who maybe you want to be pushed over the edge in switching. Maybe you want a little bit of insight from somebody who's on this camera and who's used it, 2 to 3 shoots a week for a year. This is what I do, is work with this camera, and I want to just talk to you about it. So a little bit of backstory. In case you're new here, I'm kind of on this never-ending journey of switching cameras and figuring out which tool suits my needs best. Right now, that tool is the FX3, and it has been an amazing camera. When I first started doing videography on a professional level, I was using the Sony a7 III. I loved it. It was lightweight, it was versatile. It was a hybrid because I still did wedding photography at the time. The downside was the 8-bit codec felt a little meh at times. Like, I felt like the codec was a little bit limiting for the type of work that I wanted to get into. So what I did was I switched to the Blackmagic Pocket 6K. Incredible switch, like an awesome camera. I still kind of get goosebumps thinking about my first time really going out and using that camera. That camera shot B-raw. B-raw is absolutely incredible, and it definitely was a jump in production quality from the a7 III. As my filmmaking needs grew and I started doing more and more client work, I kind of realized that maybe the Blackmagic wasn't fitting my needs the best, and there was a potential upgrade. Granted, there will always be an upgrade, but I needed something that had autofocus. I needed something that had IBIS for what I was doing, and I wanted it to be lightweight. So introducing the Sony Fx3. This thing had a 10-bit codec. I could shoot RAW if I wanted to using the Ninja V. Lightweight, internal stabilization, just an all-around incredible camera. This thing was the problem solver. This did everything I needed it to do. Autofocus for the interviews that I was shooting in the constant run and gun footage. It had IBIS, built-in internal stabilization, which is freaking incredible. It could shoot RAW if I needed it to with the Ninja V. Battery life was impeccable. It just worked as a camera, and for my needs as a videographer, this was the choice for me. Now, with that said, this may not be the choice for you, but if you are thinking that it is, I'm going to talk to you about why this thing fits so perfectly. So I ended up switching my entire kit over from Blackmagic to Sony. I still have a use for the Blackmagic, which is currently filming this video right now. I absolutely adore this camera, but for client needs, this has definitely been the move. So after a year, what are my thoughts? This thing has definitely earned its value back 10, 20 times over. And I think that should be one of the most important things that you look for in a camera. Is this going to bring value to the work that I do, to my clients, and to myself? This camera, yes, because my clients were like, oh my God, we have autofocus and interviews. People can walk and talk and do whatever they need to. They didn't have to worry about anything when it came to the technical aspects of the camera, whether that be battery, whether that be weight, whether that be setup time. This thing worked and fit my client needs. Size, reliability, and file size just works for personal needs, and I really did feel like I could grow with this camera. That was super important with me because I also felt that way with the Blackmagic. I felt like I could grow with that camera, and that is something that you desperately need, because I didn't feel like I could grow too much with the a7 III. So definitely a door opener, and definitely something that I do not regret buying after this long year with it. And it's something I would probably do over again. Recently, I've been super impressed with this thing because it got a new update. It adds Sony EI to it. And what that means in a nutshell, this lets the camera always perform optimally. Like it gives it 2 ISOs, the 2 natives. Depending on what format you're in, mine are 800 and 12,800. If I'm filming low light, native 12,800. If I'm anything else, I'm at ISO 800. I am locked to those ISOs, but that guarantees me that I'm getting the max performance out of the dynamic range that I have in this camera, which just makes it a little bit more of a cinema camera. Was that thunder? If you've enjoyed the music that you've been hearing through this video, and I know I put some banger music, then you may enjoy today's sponsor, Epidemic Sound. Epidemic Sound has decided to partner with me to bring you 50% off an annual subscription if you use the offer code ChrisF50. That brings the yearly subscription down to $54. So yeah, it's kind of tough to say now. So for those of you who are familiar with Epidemic Sounds, if you're trying to save literally 50% on your yearly plan, use my offer code. I have everything linked in the description below. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Epidemic Sound, whoever you may be, I want to tell you about them. Epidemic Sounds is my new go-to source for music. I absolutely love it because it's really seamless. It lets you link your YouTube profile, your Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, whatever you want to your Epidemic Sounds profiles. And that way you don't get copyright struck on your music. Everything is seamless and it just works. They have a crazy growing music catalog where you can download literally the individual track or the stem or just the bass line of a track, just the drums, you name it, it just works together. Or they have an excessive catalog of sound effects. I really do love sound effects. So having an online platform like Epidemic Sound, being able to give you your sound effects, your music and everything for literally like $54, then it is kind of a no-brainer for me. So if you are looking to get 1 month free of Epidemic Sound, then check the link in my description. You'll get a full month and everything that you do within that month, the stuff that you download, the stuff that you license, it's all free. You don't have to worry about it. So go ahead and check it out and try it out and let me know what you think. Thank you so much to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back to my thoughts. The new update also introduced a new menu system. Now, this menu system is not like Black Magic levels of easy or Ronin 4D levels of easy, but it is a step above. This is the FX6's menu system, which is something that I really wanted in an FX6 for, but now I got it on my FX3. So it's just closing the gap a little bit more. So a lot of quality of life improvements coming in with the new update. So if you haven't updated your Sony, I definitely recommend that you do so. But it's not all praises. There has been some struggles throughout this year. It's taken me quite a while to figure out how to adapt to the form factor of this camera. Because it is small and it is a small camera body and it has the XLRs built into the top handle, which means I can't get a custom top handle without sacrificing audio. I mostly do interviews and kind of these documentary and story videos. I always need audio, so unless I want an external solution, I'm kind of stuck with a top handle. So it took some getting used to. I had to actually get an external support for the top handle, a different type of monitor mount that I use. The battery that I used to use was a bottom plate, like bottom mount battery. It was convenient. It was super lightweight and it was flexible, but it was rocky. What I mean rocky is when I touched the camera during an interview, it felt cheap. And it was giving the impression that the camera itself was cheap because the accessories around it were cheap. So it's taking a good bit of figuring out to do, but I think this is the build that I'm gonna be sticking with for a while. This feels more solid, this feels more rugged, and I genuinely do like this, but I'm just now getting here after trying a lot of stuff. With the Black Magic, I knew I wanted to slap a full cage on there, do some rails, do a V-mount battery, and it was fine. With the FX3 I fought that for a long time because of its cageless design, and I ended up coming back full circle in a way. So we rock a half cage now with the Condor Blue support for the top handle. We do the Momin 99 V-mounts for smaller batteries because we don't want the super huge ones. And we keep a 8-inch rail system on this camera to make sure that it stays kind of small and lightweight, but it doesn't compromise all of the things that I bought this camera for. Another thing is, as incredible as this autofocus is, I want to use cine lenses on the camera. Therefore, I don't get autofocus anymore. The look that these give, and these are new, I have not talked about these in the video. This is the Vespit Prime Cine Lens set. The look that these things give me has been incredible, and I really want to use more of it going forward. So I'm not using autofocus at the moment. That was like a big thing for me when I originally switched. I wanted the ability to use autofocus, and I definitely wanted the ability to not use it when I didn't need to. So I've kind of found a hybrid ground. I use my stills lenses occasionally, and I do want to try to get away from those because, you know, the closer and closer you get to a cinema camera, you're not using autofocus. But working with interviews, working with these things, it has been a breeze so far, and I haven't really missed it yet. Pushing this camera more towards that cine build has definitely helped out, but it's been a learning curve. So overall, I've had to do some evaluations to see if the things that I bought this camera for are the things that I truly do value in the long run. I do want to speak on different cameras for a little bit. The Blackmagic 6K, the FX3, the Ronin 4D, they've all kind of taught me that there are different needs for different cameras, and there are different cameras for different needs. All these are showing me that I am still growing as a filmmaker, which is incredible. And as I continue to grow, my needs and wants from a camera continue to evolve. Because at the end of the day, like I always say, the camera is just a tool. It's just a tool to help you get your job done easier. And I want to take today to say, I want to try more cameras. I hope that one day I can get an FX9. I hope that I can go get a red Komodo or a red V Raptor, because I want to try out so many more cameras, and I want to grow as a filmmaker. Because I think I know what my end goal is. I think my end goal, quote unquote end goal, is I want a Arri Alexa LF. I do. I want it. I have no need for it right now. None at all. But that's my goal, because I hope that I can grow as a filmmaker to where my needs require me to get an Arri Alexa LF, because that'll let me know that I've been making the right choices and I've been growing and growing and growing. And that means the journey has always been incredible, because I enjoy a journey where I can grow along the way. So I do hope to leave this camera behind one day, because right now it pretty much fits all my needs. And I hope that I can get to one day where it doesn't, because that will mean that my journey as a filmmaker is continuing to broaden. I'm doing more things. I'm doing bigger things. So that is what I mean when I say that I hope I can leave this behind, because that means that the journey is not over and I still have so much more to learn. But with that all being said, that's all I have for you today, guys. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you loved it, consider subscribing, because I'm bringing you more content just like this every week. So you guys stay safe, you're loved, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.